one suggestion that I would like to make, just in general for Carnival, is about the Hub app. I think the Hub app could have a relatively easy upgrade for hearing impaired persons. And this is my suggestion. When there are shipboard announcements, I think that those should be visible as text somewhere in the Hub app. Now, Carnival does a decent job for accessibility in certain areas, and we've talked about that in the past. For example, they have accessible cabins. We have some videos that show you those, where the door is automated, there's a zero barrier bathroom, things of that nature. There's also cabins where there's a doorbell that will flash a light inside for the hearing impaired, so then they know that someone's at the door if they can't hear a knock. So they've obviously put that level of thought into it, but what about those shipboard announcements? Sometimes those can be really important. I know a lot of them, if you've gone on as many cruises as me, you've gotten really good probably at tuning them out, where it's just the cruise director telling you about all the various activities on the ship, or encouraging you to contribute to St. Jude's or whatever, things you're probably already aware of after your second or third cruise, once you're comfortable navigating the Hub app and you know how these things work. So you tune a lot of that out. There's also the navigational update on sea days that normally happens around noon that tells you how far away you are, what the temperature is, barometric pressure, sea depth, things like that, which some people find interesting. But here's the stuff that's really important. On the Carnival Celebration, when we were headed into Miami, we had to accelerate because we needed to get in as fast as possible. We got in at 2 a.m. when we weren't supposed to get in until later that morning, I think 8 a.m. But there was a medical emergency that necessitated an early docking, so we accelerated and we got to port at 2 in the morning. And so information like that should be readily available more than just if you happen to hear the announcement. Now, for something that's very important, they generally pipe it through on the speakers in the cabins, but again, that doesn't help hearing impaired people necessarily, depending on the degree of impairment. And so I would like to think that a text version of that could be accessible somewhere in the Hub app would be relatively low cost, virtually zero cost. You could get a speech-to-text program that could basically copy that down automatically and possibly even offer translations for people who English might not be their first language. When I was doing my back-to-back, there was a woman whose English was poor, but she knew Spanish very well. And so when they were announcing things, she had to flag down a staff member and ask them to say it slowly so they could understand. And so if any of those sorts of announcements were available in the Hub app, whether it was, fun, hey, join us for an ice carving, or incredibly serious, like, we are not going to this port because of high winds or a medical emergency or a hurricane or something, then people who are hearing impaired can have equal access to that. Also, you could just be in a place where you can't hear it at the time. What if you're in the middle of a water slide and you can't hear it through the walls of the water slide? If you're out on the deck or possibly on your balcony, the echo can be cacophonous to the point where I can't understand a word. So I think that would be beneficial to a lot more than just the hearing impaired, but in terms of like a strong business argument and making your business accessible to more people and more accessible to the people who are already there. I think that's a relatively zero cost. I'd strongly encourage Carnival to consider adding that kind of function to the app. I think it's relatively low cost. I think it would be fantastic. You could have it almost as like a chat window, where it's like a one-directional chat from the cruise director or something, where they just post those messages. And I mean, maybe one day they could make fewer of the announcements that's just constantly hyping the comedy club or the playlist production or whatever. Because, those don't always come at the greatest time, like when you're recording a podcast. I had to start recording this one twice because there were various announcements right at the beginning, and I'm like, okay, it just can be easier to start over. That's a unique issue, but there's other things that could be going on. You could be having a very serious conversation with somebody, and that just interrupts it. Who knows? So, and also, I like to listen to a podcast on my balcony or on Serenity, Deck 5, whatever, and so I might not hear it over my podcast. Some people have noise-canceling headphones. I think there's a strong argument to be made here. I would like shipboard announcements in the Hub app, please, Carnival. And let me know if you agree. Let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think this would be worthwhile? Is it something that you would appreciate? Because I know I would. Feel free to disagree with me, though. That's it's all about having a conversation, and I'm open to other interpretations too, but I don't see much of a downside to this. In worst case, it could be somebody just typing it out. And if it's like an assistant cruise director who's maybe learning about what kind of announcements get made, that could help fortify language and make them think about what kind of announcements they'd make when given the opportunity. It could be a succession management thing. I think this could actually be beneficial for training purposes as well. And once it's in text, even if the Hub app doesn't offer translations. People might have translation programs on their phone as it is, and then maybe they can select that text, pop it over, and then there's more clarity, especially if it affects arrival times. Now, I know that if a port gets missed due to, high winds, hurricane, medical reasons, whatever it might be, who knows, civil unrest, it's possible, an earthquake, anything like that, they generally do provide a letter. The letter comes so much later. The 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 hours delay between the initial announcement and getting that letter could be vital if you're having to reschedule a flight or notify family about pickup or make other arrangements, cancel a private excursion or something. And so I think the sooner people have that information, the better. Rant over.